I am over the moon excited with bringing you today's top 10 video. I can't even express. I'm having trouble talking to tell you. But you're gonna get a legendary 2-day in a row top 10 video. You're gonna get a top 10 today on Monday and one on Tuesday. And the very special one that's being brought to you today is top 10 monsters in Kobold Press's Tome of Beasts 2, brought to you by today's video sponsor, Kobold Press. So if you want to see what the rules are for today's video and all that good stuff, stay tuned. It's just, oh god, just go get this book. It's so good. What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and yes, as I said in the beginning, Kobold Press sponsored this video. I am so pumped to do this. I love the folks at Kobold Press. Working with them is always a treat. And Tome of Beasts is one of my favorite books. Tome of Beasts 2, obviously, right up there as well. So, for that to be the case, it has to be a monster contained in the brand new Tome of Beasts 2 that you can go ahead and go pick up. I have the physical copy, but we also have a PDF, so I can show you everything in it. And because it's your lucky Monday, right? Who loves Mondays? So I'm going to give you a top 15 because I'm going to be honest with you, this was the hardest top 10 that I've ever done. I could almost have done a top 10 in just the letter A, but I had to force myself to go through the rest of the book to get a good comprehensive top 10 that ended up being a top 15. But before I jump into that, though, I did want to give you a list of really fun pun names for other creatures that are out there that will not be in this video. So one is the alpha fish. You guys know, like a beta fish. Well, this is a more powerful evil monster, the alpha fish. There's the Cryoceros, which is a ice-themed rhinoceros. There's the Arachnocrat, which is obviously a spider aristocrat. There's the Aurora Horribilis, which is an evil like Aurora Borealis. There's a fungus called a boomer, which I thought was funny. There's the Narshark, which is a great white shark with a narwhal horn. There's the Ogrepede, which is like a human centipede, but made of a bunch of ogres, but not exactly. It's more like an ogre upright, and then all of the segments of the legs are just more pieces of ogre. There's a Sasquatch, folks, just a straight up Sasquatch. There's a Shadow Boxer, which is like a boxer-style dog that is made of shadow. A Snow Terror, which isn't a funny name, but it's an animate evil snowman. And I put the Tide Hunter here too, because there were two huge, awesome crabs in this book. And you guys know that I love crab-based monsters and things, so there's two, and I wanted to get the other one on the list. Anyway, on to the actual list. And as you know, I don't have cards for 15 through 11, so number 15. The Pumpkin King. We are on, it's October 26th when you're watching this, so we are right around Halloween time, so Pumpkin Kings and all that stuff, so that's why it's so high on the list here, because of just, it get the honorable mention because of the time frame. But it's a fey creature, it is huge size, it is challenge rating 10. Also, the art in this is phenomenal. Also, point of fact, folks, we have bookmarks in our PDF. Again, I know it's not something that you need to say, but apparently you do. So anyway, the Lord of the Harvest is the Pumpkin King's a minor fey lord, right? So he's kind of plantish, so we're going to have vulnerability to fire, but we are going to get legendary resistance, magic resistance, innate spell casting, that's plant magic-y based, entangle, plant growth, spike growth, blight, and insect plague. 2 vine attacks, which have 15-foot reach that do bludgeoning damage and grapple. You can do the harvest dance, so you can do the pumpkin dance, basically, 15-foot radius. Swirling vortex of gourds and vegetables extends from the Pumpkin King and moves with him, spreads around corners, lasts for a minute. Until it ends, it is difficult terrain. When a creature enters it, they must make a DC 16 dex save or take 3d6 bludgeoning damage. He basically has gourdish guardians. This is spirit guardians, but made out of gourds, and there's nothing that's more in my wheelhouse than spirit guardians, but make it pumpkin. And then we have legendary actions as well. 3 legendary actions. It can move, make a vine attack. We have the Fire Follow, which is, I don't know what that, oh, I guess this is sort of lighting your head on fire. So magic fire ignites the Pumpkin King's head, flickering out of the eyes. Each creature within 10 feet must make a wisdom save or be frightened. The fire remains until the start of its next turn. While it lasts, any creature that touches them takes a d10 fire damage, and then for 3 legendary actions, can cast a spell. It's spooky. You need a monster for your spooky time adventures. Consider getting Tome of Beasts 2 and using the Pumpkin King. Number 14. Something that could easily get overlooked in a massive tome, a 400 plus page tome. I mean, look at the size of this thing. Is the animals, right? The wildlife in the back. And there are no short list of really great animals, both giant versions of existing ones, some kind of things we don't have, like alligators. We have crocodiles, but we have alligators in this book, as well as some other custom fun animals made up by the Cobalt Press team. But this one, we're talking about the giant honeybee, and it's the bee dance. That's why I wanted to talk about it, because it's adorable and I love it. So it's a giant bee. Obviously, it's a beast creature, so it's an option for your druids out there. It has blind sight, it's challenge rating 1/4. It can sting, d4 plus 2 piercing damage, and then a con save, or 3d6 poison damage. If the poison damage reduces the target to 0 hit points, it is stable and poisoned. And then even after regaining HP, it's paralyzed while poisoned in this way. But the important part here is the bee dance language. A character who's established peaceful contact with giant honeybees can learn bee dance as a language outlined in the downtime rules. While any character who learns it can understand bee dance, a creature other than a giant honeybee can only convey basic concepts. A character who assumes the shape of a giant honeybee can communicate fully using this language. And just the thought of the painted scene of the druid dancing in bee dance to talk to a giant honeybee hive is just amazing. Number 13. Garlicle. These are garlic people, and that's awesome. And I don't care what you say. That's amazing. Also, the story and lore behind these guys is fantastic. So, they are basically high-level, plant creatures that are basically prophets and seers. It says they use cloves plucked from their own head to predict the future, casting the cloves like an augur's knuckle bones. The residual fey magic that infuses all, I think it's allumites, sometimes causes peculiar results in a Garlicle's predictions. Desperate folk search for Garlicles, seeking answers for such things as weather forecast, lost relics, and hidden fate. And then my favorite part is only those who have earned the title Garden Friend are allowed an audience. Often the wrathful retaliate for being rejected, but the wise Garlicles are quick to negotiate peace, or failing that, prepare an apt defense. So let's look at what our Garlicle actually does. So it's a plant. It's tearful stench, right? So creatures within 5 feet of it, when it takes damage, must make a con save or be blinded because you are crying, because it's called a garlicle, but it's kind of like an onion garlic. It's got an onion head, but garlic cloves coming out the top. It has innate spellcasting of guidance, shillelagh, augury, comprehend languages, divination, and entangle. It can use its little walking stick thing here as a weapon to deal minimal damage. But if it casts shillelagh, it's quite a bit. And then it can use cloves of fate. The Garlicle plucks cloves from its head and throws them at up to 3 creatures it can see within 30 feet. Roll a d4 for each creature. Garlic allies have a +1 on the roll, while its enemies have a -1 on the roll. Determine the result. So 0 is worst fortune. Whatever the target is holding slips from its grasp into a random space within 5 feet, and the target falls prone as it trips over a rock, rain-dampened grass, its shoelaces, or something similar. Bad fortune is a 1. They take 3d6 poison damage and must make a con save or be poisoned. 2 is they have disadvantage on their next attack roll. 3 is they have advantage on their next attack roll. 4 is they regain 2d4 hit points. Or 5, their next successful hit is a critical. This is super cool, and I just already started designing an entire encounter adventure all around someone seeking out Garlicle for guidance. And we'll have to leave your thoughts in the comments of the best high Garlicle name. So obviously that's a creature type, but what should the one that everyone seeks out in my adventure that I'm gonna rake for one of my homebrew games be? What should his name be? Let me know in the comments. Number 12. Have you ever thought to yourself, I really like tigers, but could we throw a little more dragon in that tiger? Enter the Felid Dragon. It is a dragon creature, and it is basically a combination tiger dragon, and that's ridiculous, and I love it. So, similar to other dragons, Felid dragons are treasure hoarders with an eye for shiny and sparkly things. Like most cats, Felid dragons are naturally curious and often put themselves in danger just to learn more about the world. They like to play with their prey. And it doesn't, my favorite part though, is it doesn't give us any background as to where this creature comes from. Like, is this a weird owlbear scenario or is it just a naturally occurring creature? They're challenge rating 19 too, so don't sleep on the tiger dragon here. And they obviously have super crazy stats, as you can see. They have flyby, which makes them one of the most dangerous dragons. Keen smell, magic resistance, and still has pounce like a tiger or lion has. Multi-attack, it can use its deafening roar and then make 3 attacks, 1 bite, 2 claws. Bite does 2d8 or 2d10 plus 8. The claws do 2d6 plus 8. But if it's not an undead or construct, it must make a con save or take a d4 slashing damage at the start of each of its turn as a piece of the claw breaks off in the wound. Each time the dragon hits the target with the attack, damage dealt by the wound increases by a d6. So it starts off as a d4, and then it increases by a d6 each time. Any creature can take an action to remove the claw with a DC 16 medicine check. It pops out of the wound if they receive magical healing. Deafening roar, so each creature within 60 feet of it must make a constitution saving throw, be deafened for a minute. Creature can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turn, ending in a success, and if they succeed, they're immune. So they don't actually have frightful presence, but they have deafening roar. And then lastly, recharging on a 5 or 6 is sickening bile. It coughs up partially digested food and slimy bile in a 90-foot cone, which is just disgusting. It's like a hairball breath weapon, basically. On a fail, creature takes 20 d6 poison damage and is coated in bile. On a success, they take half damage and aren't coated. While coated in bile, they are considered poison. A creature, including the target, coated in the bile can use an action to remove the bile, ending the poisoned condition. I don't know. It's just super cool, and I want a dog dragon next. Number 11. Have you ever thought to yourself, yeah, it would be cool to have a giant Mothra-like moth in my D&D campaign, but how about we make it an eldritch horror instead? Derendian Moth Abomination. I thought it was going to be an aberration, honestly, but it's a monstrosity. And as you can see, it is a huge-sized moth with a tentacle face. Stuff of nightmares. But it's also cute and rainbow-colored. So it says a dark tree resides in the depths of the forest where the veil between the material and the shadow realm is thin. Once a year, a heart-shaped growth on the tree beats, imbuing a nearby creature with shadow. The creature grows in size and power and becomes the tree's avatar in the mortal world. It spends its short life tending to and protecting its parent and the other shadow-touched trees of the forest. So again, if you're unfamiliar with Kobold Press's Midgard world, they have basically a big focus. There's a lot of stuff dealing with the void and the shadow realm, and that would obviously be associated with this. So, challenge rating 12, this moth. Immune to cold and necrotic. Advantage on perception checks. It has assimilation. It has 6 tentacles. Whenever it takes 30 or more damage in a single turn, one of its tentacles is shorn from its body. Whenever a non-undead creature drops to 0 hit points within 200 feet of it, it can use its reaction to sprout 1 additional tentacle up to a maximum of 10. Additional tentacles atrophy after 1 day. 3 legendary resistance. Its attacks are magic. And its movement is unaffected by difficult terrain and spells and other magic effects that can reduce it. Can neither reduce it or cause it to be paralyzed or restrained. It makes a number of tentacle attacks equal to the number of tentacles it currently possesses and 1 beak attack. So tentacles, just 20-foot reach though, d8 plus 1. The beak, 5-foot reach, 3d10. And then we have wings of primal tender once a day. It teleports to an unoccupied space within 100 feet, leaving a shimmering outline of its wings at its former location. The shimmering wings flap violently before exploding in rainbow-colored dust cloud, covering a 60-foot radius. Any creature in the dust cloud must make a DC 16 Wisdom save or be reduced to 0 hit points. Creatures reduced to 0 hit points from it regenerate... Creatures reduced to 0 hit points from this effect regenerate 10 hit points at the beginning of their next 3 turns. So, oh, okay, I see. So there, I was like, why does it heal you? But it's because it knocks you to 0 hit points. So interesting. And then we have legendary actions, right? 1 for perception check, 1 for moving up to its fly speed, and 2 to lay eggs. It ejects a mass of eggs within 5 feet of itself. At the beginning of the Abomination's next turn, they hatch into a swarm of insects that attacks the Abomination's enemies. Super cool. It makes me want to run like a kaiju battle with like a weird Mothra thing versus a Godzilla. I don't know. I love it. Let me know your thoughts. Number 10. The Alchemical Skunk. Yes, this is right. This is a challenge rating 4 monstrosity that is small size, so slightly larger than your average skunk. And as you can see here, it is not punk or emo and loves colored hair. It is actually, it changes color due to some weird experiment. Essentially, the backstory is it was basically like a prank, or someone forced a skunk to drink a bunch of potions. Then they mixed, there's the miscability stuff where they went all nuts in their stomach and then turned into this guy. So, keen hearing and smell, advantage on saving throws against spells and magical effects. And then it can use its alchemical spray and then makes 3 attacks, 1 with its bite and 2 with its claws. Its bite's 2d4 plus 3, its claws are a d6 plus 3, but the thing everybody wants to know about is the alchemical spray, right? So it raises its tail and shoots it out, roll a d6 and see what happens. It is immune to the effects of its own spray or other alchemical skunks. So for 1, it is a pleasant mist. It produces a rosy mist. Each creature within 10 feet must make a DC 13 charisma save or be charmed. The Shrinking Cloud is a yellow gas, 15-foot cone, DC 13 con save or be affected as the Enlarge Reduce spell. But it will be reduced only, not enlarge. A creature can repeat this saving throw at the end of their turns. It lasts for a minute. Laughing Gas is an orange cloud, 15-foot cone, DC 13 wisdom save or be incapacitated as it laughs for a minute. It can repeat the save at the end of its turn, so sort of like a Tasha's Hideous Laughter. Blinding Spray is green, which might be what it was using here in the image. 30-foot line, 5 foot wide, DC 13 dex save or be blinded for a minute, or use an action to wipe its eyes. Sleeping Fog is a blue fog. 10 feet, creatures within 10 feet of the skunk must make a DC 13 con save or fall unconscious for a minute. The creature wakes up if it takes damage or if another creature takes an action to shake it awake. Or Poison Fog, which is a purple fog. Each creature that starts its turn within 20 feet of the skunk must make a DC 13 con save or be poisoned until the start of its next turn. It's just, oh, there you go. There's a quick preview of the Alpha Fish as well. But yeah, it's super cool. It's like goofy and silly, and I love this kind of stuff. Number 9. The Bonespitter. If you know anything about me, I'm a huge fan of the Tremor series, and I love graboids, and that therefore, by proxy, purple worms, frost worms, and so on. And the Bonespitter is a terrifying monstrosity that is sort of like that, except all of those spikes you see are not spikes. They are bones of its fallen victim. That's right, it apparently has some sort of weird digestive acid that only dissolves soft tissue, leaving the bone behind, and then it becomes part of its defenses, poking through the skin like hair follicles, but they're other creatures' bones. I mean, this is like the stuff of nightmare genius at Cobalt Press. So challenge rating 13 on this guy, gargantuan size. Tremor sense, right? It's an underground creature. Bone body, any creature that starts its turn or enters a space within 5 feet of it must make a DC 18 dex save or take 3d10 piercing damage. That's just to be next to it, not even to touch it. And then it can make 2 attacks, 1 with its bite and 1 with its bone spike. So its bite here, 10-foot reach, 3d8 plus 8 piercing damage. And if they're large or smaller, they got to make a DC 18 dex save or be swallowed. If they're swallowed, they're blinded and restrained, and they take 5d6 acid damage at the start of their turn. If it takes 30 damage, it'll regurgitate them up on if it fails a con save. And then Bone Spike is 13 to hit, and it's got a 30-120 range, so it's a ranged attack. 3d6 plus 8 piercing damage, and if the target is larger or smaller, it's knocked prone, pinned to the ground by the spike, and restrained. As an action, the restrained creature or creature within 5 feet can make a DC 18 strength check to remove the spike, ending the condition. It can also be destroyed. It has an AC of 12 and 15 hit points. Vulnerability to bludgeoning damage. And then it also has its Shard Spray ability, where it exhales a 60-foot cone of bone shards. Make a DC 18 Dex save or take 10d6 piercing damage. If they're large or smaller, they're also knocked prone, pinned to the ground, and restrained. So it basically does what the Bone Spike does, but in a mass thing if they fail the saving throw. Again, a completely terrifying thing and an interesting little bit of backstory around it as well. And apparently they live in soft soil of grassy plains. So beware the open grassy plain. You might be eaten by a bone worm. Number 8. The Dragonflesh Golem. Often we wonder, what are you going to do with all the dragon bits after you kill it? And if you skin it or whatever, what do you do with all the pieces that are left? Well, if you're a clever wizard, I guess you combine them all into a terrifying, monstrous golem thing that looks like this. So it says, obviously, it's built from pieces of dragons. Let's see. Requires great expense beyond the normal cost to create most other golems. The crafter must use the remains of 5 dragons, one of each color of adult age or older. Mages looking to construct dragonflesh golems often hire adventurers to acquire the bodies. And what's interesting here is it requires frequent infusions of dragon blood to remain operational. This blood does not need to come from a true dragon. Any creature with draconic blood will suffice. The dragonflesh golem doesn't require air, food, sleep, or drink. But what that is a great hook, right? Like Dragonborn or kobolds or something start going missing because some like evil wizard or maybe paranoid wizard, who knows, is killing them to use their blood to keep its dragonflesh golem alive. All right, so challenge rating 10, but because it's made from dragon bits, resistant to acid, cold, fire, lightning, and poison damage. Bludgeoning, piercing, slashing from non-magic attacks, immunities, and then the standard condition immunities that golems have. Immutable form, as all golems have magic resistance and its attacks are magic. Again, standard golem fare here. It can use its terror stare, and then it makes 2 attacks, one with its bite and one with its claws. So its bite is 2d10 plus 6 plus a d6 fire damage. Its claws are 3d6 plus 6. The terror stare is probably going to be a frighten effect, similar to a frightful presence. It can stare, choose a creature within 30 feet that it stares at. They make a wisdom saving throw, become frightened for a minute. They can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of their turns. And then if they succeed, they're immune for 24 hours. And then it has elemental breath, recharging on a 5/6. It expels a 30-foot cone of elemental energy. DC 17 Dex save or takes 66 fire damage, okay, I was going to say, is it all of them? But it's 66 fire damage and 66 damage of another type on a failed save, or half as much on a success. Roll a d4. 1 is acid, 2 is cold, 3 is lightning, 4 is poison. It's terrifying. It looks really cool too. And I think, again, the kind of interesting roleplay hooks you can make up with one of these are pretty awesome. Number 7. Tricenatorus. So, who doesn't love dinosaurs? Well, how about if we take a T-Rex and combine it with a Triceratops? I guess maybe, well, yeah, Tricenatorus is, originally I was thinking Carnotaurus, but yeah, it's a T-Rex, but it's even worse because it's got spikes on its body. And it's interesting, this one is actually a wizardly mistake. A transmutation wizard attempted to magically bring together 2 dinosaurs to create the ultimate guardian, one with the power of a T-Rex and the docile nature of a Triceratops. Instead, they created this thing. From the moment they hatch, Tricenatauruses are angry. This rage makes them reckless and difficult to harm. Most of these monstrosities stay deep in the jungle, but Tricenatauruses are relentless when they find prey, leading them to sometimes chase explorers into civilized settlements. Challenge rating 13 on this guy. Resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing from non-magic. It has the Shark's Blood Frenzy, where it has advantage on melee attack rolls against creatures that don't have full HP. It has Relentless. Once a short or long rest, if it takes 40 damage, that would reduce it. Takes 40 damage or less, that would reduce it to 0 HP. it is reduced to 1 hit point instead. It does double damage to objects and structures, and it has 24 tail spikes. It can use spikes regrow when it finishes a long rest. So it makes 2 attacks, 1 with its bite and 1 with its gore, or 2 with its tail spikes. It can't use its gore against a creature it's restrained with its bite. Its bite attack does 4d12 plus 8, and a medium or smaller creature is grappled and restrained with a DC 18 escape. The gore has 10-foot reach, 48 plus 8 piercing damage, and must make a DC 18 strength saving throw or be knocked prone. And the tail spikes are plus 12 to hit with a range of 150, 300, and each one does 48 plus 8 piercing damage. There was a whole canceled Jurassic Park line where they did sort of mixing Chaos Theory, I think it was, where they mixed a bunch of different dinosaurs together for like I think they made toys out of it, but they never actually made the series. This is very close to that, and I love this. I really want to, somebody come up with a cool name and a concept for combining a Dilophosaurus and a Stegosaurus. I think that could be fun. Number 6. The Keyhole Dragonette. It is basically like a dragon pangolin, as far as I can tell from the imagery. But there again, another creature that has super cute, super awesome like lore behind it. So they're only challenge rating 1/2. But basically it says they were originally bred to seek out and destroy nests of rats, but they're super good at picking locks. So they find themselves being like tested and trained on different locks. And they have difficulty distinguishing between pests and pets, and they sometimes consume furry companions of people whose home they're ridding the vermin of. Because they're so small, they have but they still have voracious appetites. They don't just eat meat, though. They also eat fruits and vegetables, and it says that if they eat a lot of sugary food, they'll develop a sweet tooth, which is cute. And then it says, guards, wilderness scouts, and rogues of all types often see the value in training one. They are easy to train, eagerly bond with people, and quickly become steadfast companions with their caretakers. If the person the Dragonette has bonded with dies or leaves, the Dragonette becomes despondent. The depression can last for years if something doesn't occur to lift the creature's spirits. So you can see here, it's actually pretty smart. It's got an intelligence of 7. It has dark vision and tremor sense. It can squeeze down to squeeze through a space that is narrows 1 inch wide. Its long jump is 20 feet and its high jump is 10 feet without a running start. It can use its tongue as a set of lock picks. So the Dragonette can use its tongue to pick locks and disarm traps, as if its tongue was a set of thieves' tools. It is proficient in using its tongue in this way. Swarms of beasts don't have resistance to piercing and slashing damage from the Dragonette. In addition, as a bonus action, the Dragonette can use its Scale Slash against a swarm of beasts occupying its space. And then it can do a bite for a d6 plus 2. Scale Slash is a d4 plus 2. And then it has soporific breath. So exhales a cloud of sleep gas in a 15-foot cone. Each creature in the area must make a DC 12 con save or fall unconscious for a minute. And then it ends if someone wakes them up, they take damage. And then it also has the little bit here that they could be trained, willing Dragonettes could be trained to be familiars for spellcasters. And I love pets in any kind of RPG, which is, again, part of the reason why I have my qualms with the Ranger. But I would love to play a game where someone would let me get one of these. This would be like, I would be ridiculously invested in my character just to have one of these little guys. Number 5. The Keelbreaker Crab. This is basically an evil D&D, or not an evil, but a D&D Tamatoa, I guess you could say, but it has a little bit more interesting than just a big giant crab that puts ships on its back, which I'm not going to say it doesn't do that, because it does, but there's more to it. So, as you can see, it's challenge rating 9. It is huge size, but these figureheads on the ships on its back are kind of actually like alive, and they sing. It's pretty crazy. So it says 3 magical figureheads adorn the crab's back. While at least one figurehead remains intact, the crab has advantage on perception checks and can use its whale ability. Each figurehead is an object with 15 AC, 20 HP, and resistance to bludgeoning and piercing damage, and immunity to poison and psychic damage. If all figureheads are reduced to 0 hit points, the Keelbreaker Crab can't use its whale action. Damaging a figurehead does not harm the crab. And it's a siege monster, so it does double damage to objects and structures. It can use its whale, and then it can make 2 pincer attacks. The pincers have 10-foot reach, 3d8 plus 4 bludgeoning damage, and then there's a grapple if they're larger, smaller. It can grapple 2 creatures that way, and then it has its whale. As long as at least one of the figureheads is alive, it can whale, roll a d6. 1 to 2 is a frightening whale. Each creature within 60 feet must make a wisdom saving throw or be frightened for a minute. And can repeat that save at the end of their turns. Maddening whale. Each creature within 60 feet must make a DC 16 wisdom save or take 4d8 psychic damage. Or stunning whale. Each creature within 60 feet must make a con save or take 2d8 thunder damage and are stunned until the end of their next turn. So it's interesting here. It says the whales of their figureheads drive most people mad. However, a figurehead recovered intact from a crab might be convinced to reveal the location of a hidden treasure or even chart a course to the native harbor of the ship it formerly adorned. Again, I told you the Tide Hunter was the other one, but 2 giant crab monsters in this makes me even, I just like it even more. Number 4. Imperial Dragons. These things look amazing. The art is awesome. It's a style and type of dragon that we don't really have in 5th edition. And the lore behind these, as far as the Kobold Press world is concerned, is pretty awesome. So, it says they are tied to the world of celestials, fiends, and spirits. They freely parlay with them. Some of the most powerful Imperial Dragons even become the servants of gods in exchange for wisdom, acting as intermediaries between the divine and the mortal realm. And then it's cool, they can change color, but this says they are typically a rich golden hue, but azure, jade, and vermilion colored dragons are not unheard of, and even white and black Imperial Dragons have been reported. This says a magic organ in their skull gives them the ability to fly without the aid of wings, but they are often hunted for said organ, which is rumored to grant eternal life if consumed. And they are masters of wind and water. They love the sea and make their home. They sometimes act as guardians for sacred sites or temples near or beneath the waves. This often puts them in contact with militant aquatic races like Sahuagin and evil water-dwelling monsters like krakens and sea dragons. And then it talks a little bit about their lairs and their lair actions. And then their regional effects are their mood changes the weather. Marine life is more numerous. And pearl, which is also really interesting. Pearls within 1 mile of the dragon's lair are imbued with healing magic. If a harvested pearl is crushed into a powder and then consumed, it gives the benefit of a potion of healing. If the dragon dies, these effects fade over a d10 days. And obviously we have, what's also nice that I like in Kobold Press book is it gives us art for the different phases of the Imperial Dragon. So we don't just have to wonder what the difference between a wormling and an adult is. We get all of the different art. So we'll look at the ancient one because that's the one everybody wants to see. Challenge rating 26, immune to lightning and thunder damage. It's amphibious, legendary resistance. It can communicate with any living creature if they have a language. And then innate spellcasting of control water, fog, cloud, gust of wind, stinking cloud at will, cloud kill, control weather 3 times a day, legend, lore, and storm of vengeance once a day. Can use its mesmerizing presence and then 3 attacks, 1 bite, and 2 claws. The bite is 2d10 plus 10. Remember, we're on the ancient one, so the reach is 15 feet. Claws are 10-foot reach, 2d6 plus 10. The tail is 20-foot reach, 2d8 plus 10. Mesmerizing presence. Each creature of its choice within 120 feet must make a wisdom saving throw DC 24 or be charmed by it for a minute. You succeed this, make the saving throw again at the end of your turn, and are immune for 24 hours. And then has lightning breath, 120-foot line, 10-foot wide, DC 25 dex save, or take 16d10 lightning damage. And then it also has the change shape ability, similar to all good dragons, where you can transform into a humanoid or a beast and then back again. And then the legendary actions are make a perception check, a tail attack for 1, and perception check for 1, and then casting a spell for 3. Number 3. A snake with 100 mage hands. Because how could I not put this on the list? It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It is a small-sized snake that has access to 100 different mage hands that it can create. And the lore behind it is something along the lines of thieves guilds use snakes for performing heists because they can get into places and do things that humans can't. So magically inclined thieves guilds imbue these snakes with the ability to use Mage Hand. And then these snakes just escape the Thieves Guild and kind of carve out their own sort of little treasure hoard. Snakes with 100 Mage Hands are known for their mischievous nature. Many are kleptomaniacs and swindlers using their talents to deceive humanoids and steal objects they find pleasing. So they are a challenge rating 3. They can speak common and have telepathy out to 60 feet. As a bonus action, the snake performs a minor play with its Mage Hands against a target it can see within 30 feet of it. Target must make a DC 14 Dex save or a disadvantage on the next ability check, attack roll, or saving throw, the snake's choice, as the snake magically removes the target's helmet, upends the target's quiver, or performs some other form of distraction. And then it's got the 100 Mage Hands ability. The snake is surrounded by 100 magical spectral hands. The hands can't be targeted by spells or attacks and are immune to damage. The hands float within 30 feet of the snake and move with their serpent commander. The snake can decide if the hands are visible or not. Each hand can carry an object weighing up to 10 pounds, and no more than 3 hands can work in tandem to carry one larger object. The snake's dexterity sleight of hand checks have a range of 30 feet. Its sleight of hand, by the way, is +8. Whenever the snake makes a sleight of hand check, it can make 4 as part of the same action. It can make up to 4, but each must be against a different target. The snake performs actions normally restricted, or can perform actions normally restricted to creatures with hands, such as opening a door, stirring a bowl of soup, carrying a lantern, etc. The hands can't wield weapons or shields or make attacks, except as part of the snake's flying fist action. And as an attack, it can make 2 bite attacks, which are 2d4 plus 4, or a flying fist attack, which is a recharge on a 5/6. A flurry of spectral punches in a 30-foot cone. Each creature must make a DC 14 Dex save. On a failure, take 3d6 bludgeoning damage and be knocked prone. Also, what's interesting, snakes don't weigh that much, and if each Mage Hand can carry 10 pounds and 3 of them can work in conjunction, in theory, this snake can fly because it could have 3 of its Mage Hands turn invisible and pick it up and just carry it around. Again, it was super cool and silly, and I could not put it on this list. Number 2. Murgrik. Whatever the hell this thing is, it's like a flying crocodile alligator thing that uses tails to fly like a propeller. I don't know. It's nutty, but if you know anything about me, if it's not crabs in Dungeons and Dragons and kind of fantasy media, I also love crocodiles. That all stems back to my original character had a giant crocodile. My first D&D character ever was a druid with a giant crocodile companion. So Murgrik's, it says it's built like an alligator with 2 extra mouths, one affixed to a stalk between its eyes and one over its belly. A bat-like membrane connects its forelimbs, and a tail made of a dozen spinning tentacles propel it into flight. So it's an aberration, obviously. They're consummate hunters, prefer the prey of intelligent creatures. They relish the fear their appearance provokes, and they augment this fear by generating terrifying wails from the stalks of their heads. Occasionally, deep parts of swamps cross planar boundaries into the abyss. Those who study Murgriks believe the creatures are ordinary alligators warped by proximity to the plane. And the only known way to deter a Murgrik from attacking is to introduce a heron, real or illusory. The reason a Murgrik retreats from herons is a mystery, but it may point to the existence of a demonic bird that preys on Murgriks. Again, phenomenal lore. So challenge rating 9 here. We have a blood frenzy ability, the advantage on attacks against creatures that don't have full HP. Hold its breath for 30 minutes. Advantage on perception checks that rely on smell, and then again tentacle flight. It flies by spinning its tentacles with a 20-foot fly speed. If it is grappling a creature with its tentacles, its fly speed is halved. It can make 3 attacks, 1 bite, and 2 tentacle attacks. The bite attack is 2d8 plus 6. The tentacles have 10-foot reach, a d6 plus 6, and it is a grapple. And the grapple is also a restrain for medium or smaller creatures. And then it has the stomach maw. It makes 1 bite attack against a medium creature or target it's grappling. If the attack hits, the target is swallowed and you're just sucked up into its stomach mouth. And then you're blinded, restrained, and then let's see. You take 46 acid damage at the start of each of your turns as you're being digested. If it takes damage, we can make a con save or regurgitate you. And then unsettling, it says ululations. I wonder if that's supposed to be undulations. I don't know. The stalks of the Murgrik's head unleash a dispiriting wail. Each creature within 30 feet of it must make a DC 14 Wisdom save or take 66 psychic damage and be frightened for a minute. They can repeat the saving throw at the end of their turn, ending it on a success. Yeah, it's just terrifying and ridiculous, and I had to put it in here. Number 1. The goodest boy, the Chamrosh? I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's an angel dog, and that's the coolest thing ever. I don't care, fight me. And the lore, again, the lore, so good. Created from the souls of exceptionally faithful guards and retainers who selflessly sacrifice themselves to protect others. They are celestials that take the form of large sheepdogs with silver gold fur and eagle-like wings. Known for their ability to sniff out evil. And basically, they travel the goodly plains in packs, taking out evil creatures. It says it's rare that they come to the prime material plane, but it's not uncommon. They could do that to guard a holy relic, maybe aid a paladin on a divine quest, which is also a great story hook. But they can't change their form, so they're not typically going for like an infiltration-based mission. They'll come help and then leave. Challenge rating 1, they are a celestial creature resistant to fire and radiant damage. They have angelic awareness, so advantage on insight checks to say if a creature's lying. If a creature is lying or if the creature has an evil alignment. They also speak celestial common and have telepathy out to 60 feet. They have flyby, which is awesome, and then keen hearing and smell. Their bite does a d10 plus 2 piercing. They have the fearsome bark, recharges on a 5 or 6. Let's add a high-pitched bark at a creature within 30 feet. That creature must, if the target's of an evil alignment, it must make a DC 13 Wisdom save. On a fail, take 3d6 psychic damage and be frightened. On a success, they take half damage, and it doesn't work on good or neutral creatures. And then it has Healing Lick twice a day. It licks another creature, and they magically regain 2d8 plus 1 HP and are cured of the charmed, frightened, and poisoned conditions. So there you go, folks. That's my top 15 Kobold Press Tome of Beasts 2 monsters. I love this book. Like I said, there's so many good things in here. Seriously, if you haven't picked this up, I would go pick up this, if you're a DM specifically, right? Tome of Beasts, Tome of Beasts 2, and the Creature Codex. 3 things that I never have without being in arm's reach whenever I'm DMing. Obviously, this is new, but it's still the case because it's not only a great resource of monsters and different creatures, and if you see like a creature type, like I saw when I did my Fey video, that's severely lacking. Like there's only, however many Fey creatures in standard 5th edition, and you need more. Well, these books expand that immensely. And then that might give you more options or things to choose from. Also, if you're like me, my players memorize the monster manual inside out and backwards, not on purpose, just from times of playing and DMing themselves. They don't know these monsters, so these ones will be completely shock and new to them. So that's a benefit as well. So again, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you again to Kobold Press for sponsoring this video. I'll have a link in the description if you'd like to go pick up a copy of this for yourself. Thank you to my patrons over on Patreon for coming out and supporting me and the channel. And be sure to stay tuned because tomorrow will be another top 10 video that those patrons have voted on. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.